If you want to successfully market your business, my friends, these days you have to be a storyteller to compel today's consumers to drive with what it is you're selling. And my friends, artificial intelligence or AI continues its ascent for telling a story to the masses. However, there is a word of caution that I want to provide. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, only 3.8% of American businesses are using AI to produce goods and services in their business and to tell a story. However, it is more prevalently used in the information technology sector. According to the 2023 Business Trends and Outlook survey, Bavar is a cultural innovator, blending ancient wisdom with cutting-edge AI to help transform businesses and help them transform their future by telling a compelling story. Mona was born in Iran and raised in America. Her multicultural journey sparked a deep passion for bridging worlds and forming meaningful connections. With her company, BlueApples.ai, she assists entrepreneurs to harness the power of AI to fuel innovation and creativity while also staying true to the principles of your founding company. Staying true to your authentic voice while also evolving in this rapidly growing business landscape. Through Delish, she works to curate luxury gifting and multi-sensory experiences which connect with people across cultures, redefining the art of meaningful exchange by integrating archetypes, storytelling, and technology. She's at the forefront of helping others to navigate a future where human connections remain at the heart of innovation. And she joined me this week to tell me more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Mona, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program. And I'm super excited to learn how you help business owners use storytelling to advance their businesses. My friend, great to see you and happy Monday to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. No. Mona, I know that you describe yourself as a cultural innovator who blends the ancient wisdom with cutting-edge AI to help business owners and entrepreneurs become better storytellers, my friend. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about your work and what makes you so fabulous, my friend.
So I have a company, an AI agency that we work with AI to create content and to implement different platforms for startups, other businesses, companies, so that they can streamline and become more efficient, leaving room for their creativity. The ancient wisdom part comes from all the different archetypes and the creativity of prompting that can give us a lot of insights into who we are as leaders and as individuals, because I do believe that entrepreneurship is an eternal journey of self discovery, as well as it is a result of numbers and meeting the bottom line for our stakeholders.
Yeah, absolutely. No, my friend, I know that you were born in Iran and raised in America, and your multicultural journey has sparked your passion for bridging the world and fostering meaningful connections, my friend. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about why this work is your passion and your purpose, my friend.
Uh, so it's very important, I think. I have another company called Delish.us, which we curate gift boxes around food and design, sharing a story. And I think storytelling is a way that we all, no matter who we are and what our background is, can cultivate relationships, build bridges instead of setting boundaries and saying you're this or you're that. So we all have our stories of who we are and where we come from and what our journey has been personally. And one of the things that I have done with AI is the archetypes of Jung. And his Jungian archetypes say that we all live in myths. And the myths are essentially our stories that at each period of our lives, based on the archetype, and archetype means the influences that we have, we become the individuals that we are today. And our journey is a collection of stories. So, learning how to effectively communicate those stories so that the person who's reading it or hearing it resonates and understands our perspective or who we are and why we do the things we do can help in so many ways to create bridges, to bring people together rather than tearing them apart.
And you know, Mona, that's exactly the reason I wanted to start this podcast because, I started it in the height of COVID and I looked at the world and I said there has to be more that binds us together than working to separate us, my friend. And so I'm curious, since you brought up that point, how do you think we can create what I call more bridges of unity? What are your thoughts there?
The number one thing I really feel is communication. And communication doesn't mean just speaking, it means listening. So, like I said, we all have a story, an internal story, a collection of them. And at different moments of our lives, we feel comfortable sharing that story. Now, that may include making ourselves vulnerable, being honest with ourselves first before we can be honest with other people, understanding what our objective is and what it is that we want to achieve by sharing that story. So, if I come from Iran, it's important for my listener, for the person that I'm trying to communicate with, understand what it means for an immigrant to come from Iran, to be forced to leave their homeland, and then to start new in a country that is so different than Iran. So these little stories that are within us that we have lived, effectively communicating them so that the other person hears them and us being receptive to listening to those stories is what can slowly create these bridges that brings people together.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, your company Blue Apple dot AI works with entrepreneurs to harness the power of AI to fuel innovation and creativity in business, my friend, from a storytelling perspective. So I'm curious when we talk about amplifying what you call authentic voices in business to ensure that they can compete in this rapidly growing business landscape. I'm wondering, how do you quantify or qualify authentic voices in business, and how artificial intelligence can play a role in that?
So that's a great question, and thank you for asking it. I think that with AI, it's very easy for anyone to go on and prompt an LLM like ChatGPT to say, listen, this is my brand, I'm a beauty product, write my story. But it's not really authentic because it just regenerates what it may pick up from the web for all the from the data that it has. The most important thing, and I think that's where the creativity comes in and makes us therefore authentic, is first to understand who you are as a brand. So each one of us as entrepreneurs or businesses created a brand, and there's always a story behind the why. Why did we decide to create? So why did I decide to do Delish, uh, the gifting company? Because for me, the table was always an important part. And growing up, it was a safe haven. It's where it kept us rooted. So for that reason, I created that, but that's part of my brand story. It's the tone. So what is the tone that I want to communicate? So that also needs to be clear to the brand in order for you to then say to the LLM, listen, this is who I am. This is how I communicate. This is what I want to say. And this is what I want my audience to feel. If you don't know those, then you just become so generic that you get lost in a pool of different brands that are doing essentially the same thing you're doing. So that's where our expertise comes in. We work with the client in order to understand who they are essentially and what it is that they want to communicate. As a brand first, the founder story, the business that they started, their messaging, their tone, their style, and then what it is that they want their audience to feel. And then we work with the AI. So it is a process. It's not as necessarily as, oh, let me just sit down in front of ChatGPT, pay $20 a month, and then get my message across. You can do that absolutely, but then you'll just be lost in a pool of other brands.
Mm-hmm. And what I'm curious to ask you to define your definition of an effective communicator in business, because as you just mentioned, it's important to work not to become saturated in business. So I'm curious to ask you, how do you define sort of an effective communicator in business?
The first is knowing who you are as a brand and if you're a solopreneur, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a company, who are you and what is it that you're selling? And what is it, the pain points that you're addressing for that ideal target audience? So, if you don't, you have to know all of those in order for you to have effective communication because it's not so generic. As you see, there's algorithms, there's so much detail now that hones in on exactly what it is that me, for example, as a customer likes to hear and feel. And it's become so multisensorial that we all want to engage all of the senses. And then we resonate with that brand. So if it's memory, because we remember being in our mother's home and there was the smell of the detergent that we resonates with us, that brings us back to that safe place of home. So we continue for years buying that same detergent because it reminds us of something. If it's an emotional taste, if it's an emotional words that we hear, a quote, a famous quote. So it's anything that triggers an emotion. Now, what is that emotion for each brand differs. So Coca-Cola, for example, might want them to feel that excitement, that nostalgia. For a Nike, it might be that empowerment. For I don't know, for every different brand, it differs. So it's important for us to understand that exact feeling that we want our ideal client or customer to feel and therefore communicate that.
Yeah, and what I'm also curious to ask you about, how do you think the advancements in artificial intelligence have contributed to creating a more innovative culture when it comes to entrepreneurship? What are your thoughts there?
Um, For example, for myself personally, I can say it's freed up so much time for me to become more creative, for me to sit down and ask myself questions and better engage with myself as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as a boss, for lack of a better word. So the most recent guide that we put together for 2025, which I'm very proud of, is how to tap into your entrepreneurial archetype. And we use the Jungian idea of archetypes to every month provide prompts, very, very creative and unique prompts, and reflective journaling and frameworks for each entrepreneur or each leader or any individual really to sit down and explore themselves and the archetype that's dedicated to that month. So that is innovation. So the AI is there, the platforms are there, and we can choose to use them for good. And it's about how we're going to implement it first into our business and second into our lives. So use it in a way that makes us become more creative, makes us become better at what it is we do, tap into the areas that we want to improve, explore new ideas, create strategies that maybe would have taken us years or a long time based on the research that we had to put together. So it's all there accessible to us. And we just have to learn or get creative with the prompting. That is the key with AI today, with at least the LLMs, is how you creatively prompt in order to maintain your authenticity while tapping into that innovation.
Yeah, and with your other company, Adidas, as you mentioned, it's getting or company with multi-sensory experiences that connect people and cultures and redefining the art of meaningful exchanges. So I'm curious to ask you about the importance of meaningful exchanges and how Delish is contributing to that mission, my friend.
So the Delish was started in 2015, and it started because uh, I love food and I love design and I love the moments shared around a table. And I wanted to capture that moment uh, and share it with others. So for me, it was always a gift when I sat down at someone's table, starting with my mother's table, who was always present and it was always filled with emotions, with exchanges, with everything that you can imagine, stories. And as I got older and I moved away and I had people come to my table and they invited me to their table, I realized those were the moments that uh, bridges were made, that everyone became one. And there was nothing that about who you are, what your religion is, what your background is, none of that mattered. It was always about the food and the stories around that that then led into deeper conversations that always left me feeling enriched and fulfilled. So capturing that feeling and sharing it with the world is how Delish was born. So it's always around food and the beautiful aesthetic. And we organize also multisensory experiences, dining experiences, always around themes like spices and memory or olive oil tasting around the world, where you realize olive oil just doesn't come from Italy, for example. It comes from Lebanon, it comes from Greece, it comes from Turkey. United States makes olive oil. So let's taste all the different ones and talk about it and how we each experience it. So it's those special moments that enhances uh, cultural bonding and the commonalities that we share rather than the differences that we share.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mona, I know that you're someone who believes that there's still a space, despite the advancements of AI, for authentic human connection. And you also say that it's important to have human connection, authentic human connection, remain at the heart of innovation. And I know that you're on a mission to personally do that. So tell me, my friend, why is that important to you?
Uh, the human connection, I think, is really important because I was an immigrant, because there was so much prejudice and not intentional prejudice, but prejudice due to lack of information. So when I said I was Iranian in 1979 or 1980 or 81, everybody just imagined what they saw on the news. There was the moment of the hostage taking. There was that we are all terrorists, maybe, or this lack of information. So it was very important for when you sat down and you said, "No, listen, Iran is much more than that." Or I don't know, I moved to Italy. Italy is much more than that. These stereotypes that we're through maybe false propaganda we receive, it's very important for us to break those and say it's much more than what you understand. And it's about a creative and fun way to uh, provide information, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. And but I'm also wondering your thoughts on why it's important for human connections to lead to richer lifestyles, my friend. So, how do you think forming richer and authentic human connections can help us sort of improve the quality of other areas of our lives? What are your thoughts there?
Personally, when I speak to people like yourself or to anyone, I always get their perspectives. So their perspective can influence me, and I can start to look at things from a different perspective. So, as entrepreneurs or as business people or CEOs or leaders, you always have like a business coach. And that business coach has the ability to see things from different perspectives and then offer those to you. So then it expands your mind and you start to see the bigger picture in a relationship. If two people communicate and say, you know, when you did this it made me feel this way, or when you did this it made me feel this way, when there's these kinds of perspectives that we offer, we start to get a fuller picture. And I think through human connection, through sitting down around a table, or through these workshops that we do at Blue Apples, or anything that happens in any engagement that we have with people, it's the perspective. And that's why I say communication is so important, because it's not just about let me talk, it's about let me listen, perhaps even more than let me talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And Amara, what do you think is the key to creating what you call a borderless, human-centric future? What do you think is the key there, my friend?
Um, I think the key to that is for everyone to be, or for us, and I talk about myself first and foremost, to be open, and to be open in a way to have fun, to be curious. If you look at children, their number one strength is their curiosity. And that curiosity that comes with fearlessness, where you say, I want to know. And we forget that as we get older because we become much more myopic, we become much more narrowed, we become much more closed. And that tends to take away that part of us, that youthful curiosity that can lead to so much more. And if we just learn to keep tapping into that, we can uh, maybe we can create our own utopia. And maybe I'm being idealistic, I don't know. But I prefer now, in all these years of my life and experience, to approach life in a different way, in a more curious way, in a more fun way, because everything else is a byproduct. Money is a byproduct. Success is a byproduct. Joy is a byproduct. All the emotions we feel are byproducts. It's that essence within me that says, let me want to know more and let me have fun while I'm learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mona, I know that you're someone who believes that our future doesn't need to be another algorithm, but it needs to emanate from the soul of ourselves, my friend. So I'm wondering why you hold this belief and how people can learn from it, my friend.
There's a beautiful article that was written, I believe, in the New Yorker that said, uh, it's wonderful when you go on Spotify and Spotify knows that because of its algorithm knows what kind of music to present to you to recommend. But then you take away that joy of discovery, no? Because before there was algorithms, we would go and explore and be curious and want to taste and hear and experience. But with algorithms, it's just made it so much easier. So I think it's that aspect of saying, let me go beyond the algorithm. Let me tap into what it is that fills my heart. And I know it sounds perhaps cliche, but it's the truth. And if we think about it, those rare moments where we have these unique experiences, or we read a quote that moves us, or we see a movie, or we hear a song randomly, those are the moments that leave lasting memories. And for example, with Delish, when we curate these gift boxes, gifting, the idea of gifting is to create a unexpected surprise that is pleasant, that is memorable. And it's the same thing that if we do that every morning, we can choose which perspective that we want to live, how we want to live that day and set the tone. And I know it's hard, but it's all about the discipline. It's all about challenging ourselves. So, from that aspect, I think it's really important for each of us to be mindful and make these conscious decisions to to respond from the heart, to take action from heart.
And you know, Mona, you bring up something that sparked my interest. So I will ask you this. You know, I'm a huge believer in that we make our own sort of success stories by sort of setting our own standard of expectation. Because, you know, if you don't set your own standard of expectation, it's harder to reach to the level of anyone else's artificial one for yourself. So I'm curious, Mona, when we talk about creating expectations and internal motivations, how do you think those are interconnected?
Uh, I think first we have expectations of ourselves, and we have to understand if those expectations resonate. If it's for many years, I was so hard on myself, and I think most people can understand that. When you especially get into a role where you become responsible for other people, you set these expectations, and they may start to deviate from your inner motivation. So, for example, I started Delish in 2019 because I wanted to share this piece of what brought me joy with the world. Then I got involved with, oh no, I have to compete to rank higher on Google. I have to make sure I'm producing blogs. I have to make sure content is there. I have to make sure that I'm launching my logistics. These all start to come, expectations by my team, expectations by the customer. All of this comes and it starts to cloud that inner motivation that was driving me. And then comes the process of putting those aside and saying, you know what, let's get back to the root of why I started this. And then you start to the voices start to calm down, those expectations, those demands start to calm down. And then they shift. So now I expect myself to do what it is that makes me happy, to stick to my core messaging, to my core values as to why I started it in the first place.
Yeah, and you also say, Mona, that AI should be a muse for business owners, not leaving sort of the creative leadership side in this digital age, my friend. And I'm wondering why you believe this and why still having sort of the creative sort of curiosity of wonder is so important.
Because with AI, it's absolutely necessary to be creative. So prompting is a creative task. You have to know how to speak to your agent, your LLM, your uh, when you implement it, how are you going to get it out there? Because the only danger, not the only, one of the most important dangers that I see with AI is everybody being generic. And then the search of the customer is going to be going towards that uniqueness. So for us, it's very important to say, listen, AI is here to first enhance your creativity because then you get to be super creative in how you're presenting yourself. Get ideas, play around with it, have fun with it, and be creative in time. So if you implement platforms that can automate a lot of your work and tasks, then it leaves room for you to say, let me come up with newer ideas. Let me find unique perspectives of presenting my business, my ideas, my experiences. So, since I started using AI for our company, Delish, I see for creating new gift boxes some rare ideas that come with the help of my LLM, for example. So we play around with it. We come up with these creative, unique ideas. We then go source the products. We find it. We tell the story behind it. So I personally, who I never thought I was a creative person, have become so much more creative with this. And that's why, for example, the archetype guide that I put together is to help uh, leaders tap into their creativity. Because creativity, I believe, is the essence of success.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Mona, I'm curious to ask you sort of an independent, social question because, Mona, I was born with cerebral palsy and I found out at the age of 9 that I wouldn't be able to walk for the duration of my life without the assistance of a walker, and I was going to be defined to or confined to a wheelchair for the duration of my life because of the severity of my cerebral palsy. So I have made it my professional mission to speak to organizations about the positive benefits of hiring folks with disabilities. So I'm curious, how do you think AI can help people with disabilities succeed in the workforce? And more broadly, how important do you think it is for companies to embrace hiring folks with disabilities as a competitive advantage? What are your thoughts there?
Um, First of all, I want to say I commend you for your work and your efforts. And secondly, to address the question, I believe that for people with disabilities, and it's already been, companies are doing a lot of quick, advanced, innovative movements towards helping individuals with any kind of disability to move forward with AI. So that is one side which I am not so well informed about the technicalities of that, but I see that there's efforts being made in those directions. But I can tell you, for example, with the help of AI, you're able to come up with ideas on how, for example, can companies implement uh, efforts in order to hire more people with disabilities? Or how can people with disabilities use AI to advance in certain aspects of their lives? So it's ways that you can engage with AI on the level of uh, conversation, let's just say, even to get better ideas. So it's easy now, for example, let's say to speak with AI. It's easy for you to dictate to AI. So this kind of engagement can lead to uh, ideas and idea generation.
Yeah, absolutely. And but I'm going to end on a two-part question because I am a huge believer in manifesting prosperity. So as we enter the new year, my friend, I'm curious to ask you how you're defining prosperity in 2025, and when you look at your life and your legacy, how do you want that to be defined?
That's a great question. thought provoking for sure. Um, for every year, I have a word because I'm a part of a business group of mentors, a business mentor, and she has this group, and she asks us every year to have come up with a word. And the word for me personally this year is expansion. And I was explaining to one of our clients at Blue Apples, and what does expansion mean? And it means that you're ready to receive, but in a way that is perfect for you. So if you're a small business, all of a sudden you don't want jump to become a Coca-Cola or a multinational. There's steps that you take. You take little pieces and you create this unique dish, let's say, this unified plate or bowl that's filled with everything that you need. So for my legacy, I want it to be that it leaves something for people to say, you do it on a level where it's piece by piece. You put this beautiful puzzle together. And at the end, it's that picture that you envisioned yourself of having. And I think that's the process of life. So you go through the removing of the archetypes that have been fed to you at different stages of your life. And you take the pieces that resonate with you and you keep those and you put aside the ones that no longer resonate with you. And then the objective is to receive that essence, that truth, that real archetype that is the person that we are and we want to be. So that when they look back on my time, they say, okay, there was this innovation, there was this way, but it was always about being true to that depth, that essence, that truth that comes from love, that comes from struggles, challenges, the removing and ending of something that doesn't work with for you, and the continuous rebirth, the death and rebirth. So I guess that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mona, finally tell me if people want to get connected with you, my friend, what's the best way they can do that?
They can definitely go to BlueApples.ai. So it's our AI, and they can set up a call. We offer complimentary calls, discovery calls to get to know one another and see how AI can work with you. And for Delish, they can go to delish.us uh, to learn more about our gifting.
Well, absolutely, my friend. I have to tell you, I think you're doing outstanding and innovative work, my friend, and it was a privilege for me to engage in conversation with you this afternoon. So I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for engaging in conversation and finding a few minutes in your busy schedule to answer my questions. It's great to meet you, and I want to thank you for being here. It's most appreciated.
Thank you to you. Thank you for the space and for the work that you're doing.